What's up, guys? J Red here, and today I'm going to be reviewing my bracket picks that I picked back almost a month ago. Now, going for the results and going for my choices, I'm probably going to be very upset about my choice making, about what happened, what went wrong. I'm going to feel a lot of sorts of questionable and probably dumb at myself. So we just now found out who the national championship game is going to be. It's going to be Gonzaga versus North Carolina. So I figured, why not go back and review some of the terrible choices I made. So going with the very first pick, Villanova versus Mount St. Mary's in New Orleans. I had Villanova beating them. It was obviously pretty clear here Villanova was the better team. Chris Jenkins and whoever else was on the team. Oh, whoops, what am I doing? That's not what I wanted. Brackify, what are you doing? So yeah, I had Villanova winning the very first game, so that was pretty much expected. Next game, Wisconsin versus Virginia Tech. I had Wisconsin winning. They won that game. Next game. Oh my gosh, stop being stupid with me. I had UNC Wilmington over Virginia. I realized now that was a mistake. UNC Wilmington lost to Virginia. UNC Wilmington had a chance to win, but they didn't win. I was trying to look for the right word, but I couldn't find it. I had Florida over East Tennessee State. I had Florida winning, but this is just like my first ever predictions. I'm not going to go over the other bracket that I made because that's a whole nother video. This is just my first ever bracket choices. So I had Florida over East Tennessee State. Then I had SMU over Providence or USC. USC ended up winning. One of the biggest upsets that I've seen throughout the entire tournament. At the beginning of the tournament, there was not that very many upsets. USC came out swinging and won in the first round, surprisingly. Baylor, I had them beating New Mexico State. That was a pretty obvious choice looking back on it now. South Carolina and Marquette. I picked Marquette. I realize now that was a mistake. South Carolina ended up beating them very first round. Duke, that was no question there. They were going to beat Troy, without a doubt. Going into the next part of the bracket, I had Gonzaga beating South Dakota State. South Dakota State, I didn't think they stand a chance against Gonzaga. Northwestern actually ended up beating Vanderbilt after a few mistakes Vanderbilt made in the final few minutes. I had Vanderbilt beating Northwestern, but Northwestern ended up going on to the second round. I realized that was a mistake. Notre Dame ended up beating Princeton. Wasn't by a whole lot. Let me see what the score was. I got like the bracket on one side of my screen and then the results of each game on the other side. Yeah, Notre Dame won by 2. It was a pretty close game, without a doubt. West Virginia and Bucknell. That was a pretty close game, but West Virginia came on top, 86-80. I had them winning. Now this upset I had predicted correctly. Xavier beating Maryland. Maryland, they only had Melo Trimble. I didn't think they were gonna move on that far, so I thought Xavier was gonna beat them, and I predicted that correctly. Florida State against Florida Gulf Coast. Florida State ended up winning that game, 86-80. It was a pretty close game, but Florida State ended up winning. St. Mary's and VCU. I picked St. Mary's despite how much I wanted to pick VCU because VCU has always been a tournament team. But St. Mary's ended up getting the victory 85-77. Next pick, Arizona against North Dakota. Arizona, they were a pretty good team, so I picked them over North Dakota. Kansas against NC Central, UC Davis. I can't remember who they faced. I don't really care because Kansas ended up winning. I picked Kansas because they had Josh Jackson, Frank Mason III. They had a lot of good players. Next matchup, Miami and Michigan State. I did not expect Michigan State to blow Miami out of the water. This came to me as a shock because I had Miami moving on to the next round and beating Michigan State. It caught me off guard. It really did. Let me see what the score of the game was. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. I'm just going to say that now. 78-58. That's pretty bad, considering I had Miami winning. I had Nevada over Iowa State. Iowa State ended up winning. I had Nevada going to the Sweet 16. They ended up losing to Iowa State, which kind of disappointed me. Next, Purdue and Vermont. I had Purdue moving on. That, without a doubt, that was no question there. Purdue had a more dominant team than Vermont. I had Rhode Island beating Creighton. Thankfully, Rhode Island won. I'm happy about that. Oregon over Iona. That was no clear choice there. Oregon was a better team than Iona. Michigan and Oklahoma State. I had Michigan winning, but Oklahoma State kept the game close. Michigan ended up winning 92-91. It was a good game. And then Louisville and Jacksonville State. Without a doubt, Louisville was going to beat Jacksonville State. But Jacksonville State, they got to an early lead, but Louisville somehow got their heads together, and they ended up beating them, which didn't surprise me one bit. North Carolina, Texas Southern, and North Carolina. Moving on, it was pretty obvious, without a doubt. And I look back on that choice, and I'm glad I made that pick. Now, I regret this one deeply. I should have picked Arkansas because Seton Hall, they weren't really anything too special in the regular season. Arkansas, they were all right, but they, in my opinion, were much better than Seton Hall. I just thought I would see an upset there. Middle Tennessee, that was without a doubt an upset waiting to be happening because Middle Tennessee, they were better than Minnesota without a doubt. So I got that one correctly. Butler over Winthrop, no, there was no question in that. Butler's always been a tournament team, and I knew they were going to beat Winthrop. Cincinnati and Kansas State or Wake Forest, didn't really care about that because Cincinnati, they were going to win regardless because they had the better team. UCLA and Kent State, I picked UCLA because Lonzo Ball, TJ Leaf, Thomas Welch, they had a better team. Dayton and Wichita State, I chose Wichita State because they've always been a tournament team, got misseeded. They won the Missouri Valley Conference, and they did not get placed higher. They were placed at 10th seed. They got misseeded. Should have not faced Dayton. Both of them were tournament teams. Honestly, that was a good matchup, but Wichita State, I'm glad I picked them. And Kentucky and Northern Kentucky, Kentucky was going to win, without a doubt, in my opinion. They're better than Northern Kentucky. Going on to the second round, I had Villanova over Wisconsin. That was a mistake. That was a big mistake. Or big upset. Not mistake. I don't regret picking Villanova because I thought Villanova was going to win. But Villanova lost 65-62, which is very shocking because I thought Villanova was going to make it far. I had UNC Wilmington over Florida because I thought UNC Wilmington was probably going to make it to the Sweet 16. They got eliminated the first round. Florida ends up going to the Sweet 16. Next pick, I had Baylor beating SMU, but it turned out to be USC. Baylor ended up winning anyway. And then I had Duke beating Marquette. Turns out that round South Carolina actually beat Marquette, and they went on to beat Duke. So all those Duke fans out there, I feel bad for y'all because I didn't know South Carolina was going to make a deep run. I had Gonzaga beating Vanderbilt, but Northwestern was the team that beat Vanderbilt. So I basically had Gonzaga going to the next round. I had Notre Dame going to the next round, upsetting West Virginia, but West Virginia ended up beating them. Next pick, I had Florida State over Xavier. I really thought Florida State was going to beat them. But Xavier pulled off the major upset, which kind of killed my bracket. And then I had Arizona over St. Mary's. Who ended up? Yeah, Arizona won. It was the next round that they lost. I had Kansas over Miami, but Kansas ended up beating Michigan State. That was a good pick, in my opinion. I had Nevada beating Purdue, but I was wrong on that. Purdue ended up going to the Sweet 16. I had Oregon over Rhode Island. No choice in that. They had Dorsey, Dylan Brooks, Jordan Bell. They had a lot of good players on that team. And then I had Michigan over Louisville. I was out of the bracket that I did on bracketfy.com. Only 303 people had Michigan over Louisville, but that was only on that website that I made my choices on. That wasn't an official bracket. It was just something that my best friend Super724 made, so I can make my choices for a bracket video. So I had Michigan over Louisville, which is one of the best decisions I made. Don't regret it at all. North Carolina over Seton Hall. North Carolina, I had them. Didn't matter who they were facing anyway. I had Middle Tennessee over Butler, but Butler ended up winning that match. I had UCLA over Cincinnati. That was, without a doubt, UCLA's game. Then I had Kentucky over Wichita State. That was pretty obvious, too. I don't regret that at all. Going to the Sweet 16, I had Villanova over UNC Wilmington. I don't regret that pick because I thought Villanova was going to make it very far. I didn't expect Wisconsin to make it far. I had Baylor over Duke, but South Carolina ended up beating Baylor. I don't regret that pick because I thought Baylor would have had a chance to beat Duke. Gonzaga, I don't regret that decision because I knew they were going to make it far. Arizona, they ended up losing to... Who did they lose to? Let's go to Thursday. Arizona lost to Xavier. I did not expect that whatsoever. I really thought Florida State was going to make it. Then I had Kansas going to the Elite Eight, beating Nevada. I realize back now I don't regret that decision. I do regret putting Nevada though. Oregon over Michigan. That was another good decision I made. North Carolina moving on to the Elite Eight. That was a good decision. Kentucky going to the Elite Eight. That was a good decision as well. Then I had Baylor going to the Final Four. I do regret that decision because I just wasn't thinking at the time, and I should have picked Villanova, but it really doesn't matter at this point because they were already gone. I had Florida State being Gonzaga. I regret that one too. I really do. Because Gonzaga, they're in the championship game right now. Kansas over Oregon. I don't regret this because I thought Kansas was going to make it to the Final Four, but Oregon really surprised me. And then the next pick, if bracket file load. Come on, bracket file. Work with me. I want to finish my picks. I think I had Kentucky over North Carolina. Yes, I did. I kind of regretted that because Kentucky, they weren't really strong until basically when they showed up. Then I had Baylor over Florida State. I regret that decision as well. And then Kansas being Kentucky, I don't regret that decision. And then Kansas over Baylor, I really didn't regret it because I really had no choice in the matter of who was going to be my winner. I really thought Kansas was going to make it to the championship game. So far, my bracket on this was busted. All those picks looking back, I really regret it. That some of these games, these games, I wish I could take back, but that's what March Madness is all about. Living and learning through experiences like that, especially brackets. And I had a busted bracket on this one. I made another bracket with Super724 and a bunch of other friends. I'm going to release that bracket as soon as the tournament's over. Once I get my bracket back, I'm going to show you guys what my picks were. And you can tell me down in the comments below what you think of them. You're probably going to give me a lot of hate, but it's okay. I'm giving myself a lot of hate because I regret all these picks that I made on this bracket file website. So anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed me reviewing my bracket. I regret most of the choices I made. I wish I could go back and redo this. I really do. So anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Leave likes, comments, subscribe to my channel. Do what you guys do. Don't forget to check out Super724's channel. Don't forget to check out my vlog videos. Be sure to check out JAC's channel because we're going to start filming videos on that channel. We have a few JAC videos up on Super724's channel and on my channel as well. So as always, guys, have an awesome day, and I will see you all later.